Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Crazyfrankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my Week 15 for key game picks. Before I make my picks for Week 15, just as much as quick thoughts as I had from week number 14, and I don't even know where to begin with this week because this was probably one of the most insane Sundays of any NFL day, probably in any NFL season, probably in years. But obviously, if I'm going to start, if I got to start some quick takes here, I got to talk about the Patriots Dolphins game. I'm going to try to make this short and sweet here. What the heck was Gronkowski doing as a safety? That's one thing. If they had speed, they would have stopped the Dolphins from having that miracle touchdown at the end of that game. Obviously, that Bill Belichick basically just got out-coached by some reason. Number two, Tom Brady not being able to have the Patriots line up to kick a field goal at the end of the half really cost them the game as well. It's hard to say whether this Patriot team... Look, I cannot buy the fact that this Patriot team is starting to lose their ways here. They are fortunate right now. They're still holding on to that first round bye lead right now because of Pittsburgh's mishap, and they lost to the Raiders. That, to me, was astonishing. That part, I really can't explain Pittsburgh here. And speaking of those two teams, that is going to be one of my key game picks I will get into after I finish my thoughts here. But if I have to finish my thoughts here on the Patriots and Dolphins game and all that, Patriots lost it. They screwed up. They practically screwed themselves rather than the Dolphins winning that game. When clearly the Patriots were the better team. I know that the records show that they only had one win in the previous 6-7 games they played in Miami. But that should not be an excuse, though. That was a game the Patriots had won, but yet they let a touchdown happen in the end. When Gronkowski barely even moving. I mean, anybody should know right now that Gronkowski's not 100%, and now it's becoming a factor. It's becoming a huge factor for the Patriots if he's not healthy. Even though they have enough weapons offense-wise, but you need Gronkowski out there. I already talked about the Patriots and the Steelers and all. Got to talk about the Cowboys. It took overtime just to beat the Eagles. Could we be undermining this Cowboy team right now? Now they already have the edge in the NFC East, and if they win their next game against the Colts, they pretty much clinch the division right there. And that is another game I will get into. That's going to be another one of my picks once I finish my thoughts here. But I don't know if there's any vulnerabilities on this Cowboys team. I mean, look, the Eagles played them hard, and they were playing desperate because they needed a win badly just to keep their playoff hopes alive. But if I'm Dallas right now, you want to try to get to the third seed, and let me tell you why. Look at what Seattle did to Minnesota. Now, I know Russell Wilson and the Seahawks did not play well against Minnesota, and of course Minnesota fired their offensive coordinator. Minnesota's kind of looking on the outside right now to possibly being the 6th seed, and whoever's the 3rd seed, you may be given a gift if somehow Minnesota survives all the way to week 17 and clinches that last spot, which they are now in danger now of falling out of the playoff picture, with possibly Carolina moving back into the 6th seed, even though despite Carolina losing basically their last 4 games. Really tough to say what goes on right now, because if you look at the current playoff picture right now, the AFC pretty much is starting to become a little bit more clear finally. But if I have to look at it from a standpoint here, the Patriots now are also still in danger of falling out of the first round bye position as the 2 seed. Keep in mind, the Texans, even though despite they losing, they're fortunate the Patriots lost. They're still tied for that spot, even though the Patriots hold the tiebreaker. Who's to say right now for this game? The Texans could leapfrog the Patriots if somehow the Patriots lose to the Steelers and the Texans win their game. The Texans could move into the first round bye. There's a lot of... It's starting to become sort of clear. As I look at the 5th seed right now, the Chargers currently still hold it, even though despite barely beating the Bengals next week. And that's another game I'm going to get into with the Chargers and the Chiefs. That's also going to be another one of my key game picks I will talk about, which sets up the showdown on Thursday night between the Chiefs and the Chargers to who wins the AFC West. we're looking down the stretch right now, football fans here, and I could not be more pumped up for the final weeks of the regular season. All right, let's talk about week number 15. All right, and speaking a lot of what I said right now, as I mentioned, let's begin. Of course, I got to begin number one. Basically, the Chargers versus the Chiefs. Basically, this is the AFC West division decided in this game right here. Well, obviously for the Chiefs, they actually would clinch the division if they beat the Chargers, because if you look at the last two games, even if the Chargers somehow have if the records end up being the same, the Chiefs would still hold the tiebreaker regardless. So there's a lot riding for the Chiefs right now. They want to wrap up the division right here, and the Chargers may look like they pretty much are going to be locked into the 5th seed here. But Rivers last week against the Bengals, 19 of 29, 220 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. The Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes went in an overtime victory over the Ravens. He went 35 of 53, 377 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception here. The Chiefs are a 3.5-point favorite in this one as at the time of this video. Current odds. A lot of odds may start changing towards kickoff here. So a lot of these early lines I have right now may change. But going into this game right here, no question the AFC West division is going to be decided in this game. Chargers still are uncertain whether if Gordon is going to be available for this game. But in all honesty, they need him for this game if the Chargers want any chance of going into Arrowhead and beating the Chiefs here. Obviously, their running game still is taking a hit. That's where the Chiefs may have a slight advantage. Chargers may have the defense, but Kansas City offense is still too high powered. This game might go back and forth here, but I think the Chiefs survive this game here. And as a Charger fan, it's hard for me. I really am pulling for the Chargers to pull the upset here. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think the Chiefs are going to win this game here. I'm picking the Chiefs here. Their offense, I think, they're just a tad better than the Chargers. Even though Rivers is playing at a high level than he's ever played in a long time, Kansas City just has a better offense. Now, their defense struggled a lot against the Ravens, and I expect this game to be much closer than it was in Week 1. But I think the Chiefs win this game here. I think they're going to wrap up the division right here. They will clinch it, and I just think the Chargers right now, they just need to worry about staying locked into the 5 seed. And I'm going to pick the Chiefs here. Chiefs have the better offense in this one. Chiefs over the Chargers. Key game number 2, the Dallas Cowboys versus the Indianapolis Colts. Surprisingly that the Cowboys are underdogs in this game. The Colts are a 3-point favorite in this one. I really think that number is going to be 2 by the time it's kickoff. Now, Prescott last week in a big win over the Eagles, 42 of 54, 455 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. And Andrew Luck in that big win over the Texans, he went 27 of 41, 399 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Now, obviously, the Colts are fighting for their playoff lives right now. Even though they beat the Texans here, they're still about 1 game back. They're still 1 game back of, I think, 1 or 2 games back of the Texans here. Obviously, the Colts are fighting for that last playoff spot, and that's basically that's what they're going to be fighting for. Now, basically, from what I read from the odds makers here, that Indianapolis has been pretty good at home. I think they've only lost 1 home game all season at home, and that was when they beat the Texans here, and they actually. The only last one. No. I scratched that. Let me correct my error here. No. Texans beat the Colts in that game. Yeah. Texans beat the Colts in that one. Yeah, and that's their only home loss. Dallas defense, I think, is going to be tested in this game. I somehow don't see this game being a blowout by some sort. I think this game is going to be close. Indy's fighting for their playoff lives, and like the Eagles, I think Indy will keep up with the Cowboys here. But the way the Cowboys defense has been playing here, I expect this game to be close. It's going to be tight all the way, but I just think I'm going to go the other way here. Cowboys offense, I think they're going to get the job done in this game here. Colts probably lose by a field goal here. I'm going to pick the Dallas Cowboys here. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to wrap up the NFC East division in this game here. It's going to be a tight game, and it's not going to be an easy one for the Cowboys, but I'm going to stick with my pick here. I think the Cowboys will beat the Colts here, barely, and that may give the Texans the division as well, too. And that's basically it. I just think the Dallas defense, I think, will hold Indy pretty well in this game, but Indy will keep this game close. I think it'll be probably a low-scoring game, but I like the Cowboys in this one here. I think the Cowboys win by a field goal. Cowboys over the Colts. Key game number 3, the Green Bay Packers versus the Chicago Bears. This is the second meeting between these two teams. Obviously, we all know what happened in week number 1 when supposedly Aaron Rodgers was hurt. Came back in a stunning comeback against the Bears and beat them. But since then, the Packers are fighting for their playoff lives here. Mathematically, they're still alive, but they lose this game. Not only do the Bears win the division, but this could eliminate the Packers altogether right here. The Packers could be eliminated Sunday. Depending on what happens on the rest of the games here, they possibly could be eliminated Sunday. Now, Rodgers and the Packers in a must-win game last week against the Falcons win 21 of 32, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And Trubisky in a big win over the Rams last week, 16 of 30, 110 yards, 1 touchdown, but he was intercepted 3 times in that game. The Bears are 6-point favorite in this one, and I don't agree with that whatsoever. I think that number should be much lower. The Packers are fighting for their playoff lives. Rodgers plays the Bears very well here. But you look at that defense that the Bears have. I think, to me, the defense is going to make Rodgers hit the grass in the dirt all game long. Their defense has improved a lot throughout the season. Look what they just did to the Rams. They basically just put them in the ground on Sunday. I don't think Rodgers and the Packers have. I think despite everything that's happened with this franchise right now, I think, to me, the Bears are barely going to beat the Packers this time. I think the Bears are going to want blood in this game. There's no question. They haven't forgotten about what happened in week number 1, and they would love to do nothing more than for 2 things to be sweet. Number 1, get their revenge. Number 2, win the division thanks to beating the Packers. And I'm going to stick with it. Now, Trubisky may not be playing that well, but the Bears' defense has improved a lot. And I think they're going to get to Rodgers a lot more in this game. I think, to me, the Bears are going to wrap up the division here in this game here. And I'm picking the Bears in this one here. Bears over the Packers. And finally, key game number 4, of course, the New England Patriots versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Patriots are only a 1-point favorite in this one, despite everything that happened last week with the Dolphins here. Brady went 27 of 43, 358 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And Roethlisberger, in a terrible loss against the Raiders, 25 of 29, 282 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Pittsburgh needs this game a lot more than New England does. New England pretty much will wrap up the division regardless, because if the Dolphins do lose to Minnesota, even if the Patriots lose, they pretty much wrap up the AFC East right there. But if I look at it from a standpoint, Pittsburgh needs to play probably their most desperate football as it is. A lot of questions on the Patriots' coaching and play calling and their defense as well that led to that miracle. This game is going to be close. It's going to be tight for 4 quarters, and I expect it to be a close game here. But I just think somehow I look at it, I may go on an upset here. I don't think it may be considered an upset since the Patriots are only a 1-point favorite in this game. Roethlisberger and the Steelers, I think, to me, they may play their best football of the whole season. And you don't think they haven't forgotten about what happened last year in that game in New England when they really, in the fourth quarter, where they got screwed out of a call that really should have been the game-tying touchdown. You don't think the Steelers have that in their memory right now? The Steelers are playing desperate football. They need to play as a desperate football team. They're barely clinging on to the AFC North division, with the Ravens still not far behind them. They're the 6th seed right now, and they could still catch them if the Steelers lose this game. I just think to me the Steelers, I think to me they're the ones that I think they're going to bounce back here. The Patriots I think could be in big trouble here. The way Pittsburgh, now look, it's going to be a close game regardless. But I'm going to pick the Steelers here. I think the Steelers here, they probably going to play much more desperate than the Patriots will, because the Patriots will still wrap up the division. Pittsburgh is barely clinging on to their playoff lives here. Connor's still a game time decision. I don't know if then look, the running game is really hurting here. It's really tough to say who wins this game here. It's not there's no way this game's a blowout. It's going to be close, but something tells me that Pittsburgh will win this game here. I don't know what that is, but Pittsburgh's got to play desperate football here in order to keep their playoff hopes alive, and that's where I'm going with. I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers here. This is not a sure pick, but I'm going to stick with that pick. Steelers over the Patriots. All right, everybody, that wraps up my picks for week number 15. For all my week 15 picks, go check the description below. And I'll see you guys next week when I talk about my picks for week 16, as we're down to the final weeks of the regular season. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care and enjoy your football weekend.